I'm Brent Leary.
Paul Greenberg.
We are the CRM Playaz, and how many times have you guys actually heard us say that at this point?
Anyone who can give us an accurate number wins something. We'll figure it out.
Yeah, we'll figure out, what. Don't expect a whole lot, but
No, actually, no, we have to rephrase it, because if somebody watched the show once said, I heard you say it once, they're right, and they win.
That's true.
How many times have we said it? Not how many times have you heard us say it?
I don't know, but now we're official because I just got the notification on my watch.
Oh my God.
See? I can't really see it. Anyway.
No, I just say, yeah. Oh, to me, I just got we're doing it in 20 minutes.
Oh, now we're officially live because Sven is in the house.
Whoa.
What the hell that's
I'm guessing it's a dialect of German of some, because V. Gates, I know, is German.
I know Bill Gates, but I don't know V. Gates.
Oh, that's Victor Gates. V.
Okay.
Gates. Right. So Habedare V. Gates.
Haberdasher? Look, I don't know.
Is it like Bavarian or something? Like a dialect of German?
All right, Sven, you know what to do. Translation, please, because neither of us know what the hell you're talking about here. So we need that. And we also would like to say hello to, am I really going to say hello to Boston Bob?
Yeah.
The other Bob? That's what he calls himself now. Look at that. He's calling himself the other Bob.
No, he's actually calling Bob Stutz.
Oh, waiting. Oh, he's calling the other Bob the other Bob.
Exactly.
How did we get so many Bobs on the show?
I don't know. I maybe. Well, actually, I only send invites to people named Bob.
All right, Thomas. What the hell is mowing?
He must mean like morning, maybe.
Why is everybody talking different language? Now we got Ray with.
They're good. Now that's German. That's just straight out German.
All right. Look, Sven says you're 100% right.
Bavarian dialect. Wow, got it. Woo! I'm pretty good.
You're on a roll.
When I was 4 years old, I had an affinity for cars. And I don't even care about cars at all now. But back then, I'd see a car on the road and I could say like Studebaker 1952, whatever model. And I was 4 years old. I could do that with every car on the road.
Wait a minute. You were 4 years old, so that was 1953. 54. And you were already spotting Studebaker model.
I just somehow had this. I've lost that ability completely. But back then, I did it. All my mother and father were like amazed because I could identify any car on the road and the model and the year.
That's a pretty amazing thing for a 4-year-old.
Given that I could barely read.
Or speak German apparently, but that's
I wasn't. I'm sure I didn't pronounce it too well. But now, with languages, I'm sort of good about it. Like I can figure out the likely dialects if they're not obscure.
Yeah. All right. Hey,
I've done that before.
Donnie, good to see you.
How you doing, bud?
Thomas. Oh, okay. That is the Northern German way of saying hello. Moin. All right, I'll remember that. Moin. Next time I'm in Northern Germany, I'm going to be rocking the Moin there.
There you go. Next time I'm in Des Moines, I'm going to say German.
Have the honor. How are you doing? Okay. Thank you for the official translation there, Sven.
Thank you, sir.
Larry, just thank you for speaking English. I really appreciate that right now.
Even though you're stretching it, calling us gentlemen.
Yeah, well, that's beside the point. Okay, let's go with whatever that. I can't pronounce that.
Goyamore?
Moin.
In Moin, they say moin.
All right, so thank you. That's been the CRM Playaz language episode.
That's right. Thank you. So episode 2, where we'll go into adverbs, adjectives, and verbs in multiple languages, will be next week.
Okay. Well, got that to look forward to. All right. So yes, we do have a special guest, although he's not really a special guest. I mean, he's special, but welcome a guest. So We're going to be oh, look at Alan. Alan thinks he's quick.
Oh, so Ray was saying good morning in Afrikaans, he says.
Man, you guys are like,
Wow.
the languages.
Afrikaans, Bavarian, Northern German, although I don't know what.
When I think of Bavarian, I think of donuts, man. I'm trying not to eat donuts.
Bavarian cream. Right.
Speaking English apparently is me and you, Larry. Me and you. We're going to stay true to our
that leads to wanting a couple of drinks at the bar.
Venerable gentleman who walked in. Okay.
I have no clue.
So before we bring our not guest on, he's our guy. I mean, he's one of us. So
that's right. He's not just a guest.
No, he's definitely not. Matter of fact,
he's more than an occasional guest.
Okay, yeah, that's a good way of putting it. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So we'll have the venerable Paul Greenberg do his introduction shortly. Can't wait for this, by the way. I think people actually tune in just to hear you introducing guests.
Yeah, but we've introduced this guy so many times. I have to.
That's why the pressure is on you, man, because you got to come with something that's different, a little unique. I'm looking in the green room. I'm seeing what he's wearing, and this is going to be a good one. I can tell. So, but before we officially introduce him, we have a couple of things where I like to spring things on Paul. I
have no clue coming in.
I have to tell you, I really appreciate you letting me roll with, do these things, and you just kind of roll with the punches.
Well, I always have the same answer. I don't know.
Yeah, I know.
That's pretty much the answer.
You really haven't rolled with the punches when it comes to make sure I say this right. Stump the guy. It's
that time. Well, I do roll with the punches. You say it, and I get knocked out immediately.
Alan is right. You do need an intro reel so that you roll the intro reel before you actually do the intro. See, that's how show segments get created, Alan. We should have recorded.
Wow, that is so professional.
Which is so not us. All right, so before we bring our guests on, although everything kind of ties into our guest because he's worked everywhere in the industry for the most part. But last night,
you took away the one thing I hadn't said yet. Just now,
I did.
You just said he worked everywhere in the industry. That was literally one of my intro points.
Hello from India. All right. Thank you for joining us.
Sati.
That's, I think, sounds good.
And the R, I guess, is the initial of his last name.
I don't know. We'll go with that. By the way, I'm wearing a brand new, never worn before Rams hat in honor of our non-guest, and I'm glad I am because I see he's got something on too. Anyway, so before we bring him on. Last night after the buzzer, Salesforce did their earnings, and I just so happened to be on Twitter, and I saw this tweet from Mark Benioff. It just caught my attention because he kind of laid out their revenue timeline, and it's kind of, 2014, 4.1 billion. It hasn't quite been, I guess it's now in its 8th year. And they're officially up to 26.2. So that's a beyond of a 6-bagger. And they're expected to go to 31 next year, which would be very close to an 8-bagger in 9 years.
Yeah.
That's pretty damn successful. And so successful. Look, even on Twitter, Salesforce was trending. You see that?
No, I didn't catch that.
Yeah,
yeah.
Because I don't think I've ever seen Salesforce trend. I don't think I've seen any real enterprise SaaS company trending. I could be wrong. I just haven't seen it. But those numbers are pretty astounding when you think about it.
Again, what it attests to with them is, most companies would like to attribute it to just their products and services are so good that therefore. Oh, hi, Martin. Pleasure. I wonder where. Well, so far, Martin can be either Germany, Northern Germany, or Bavaria, if language means anything.
Well, if you're in northern Germany, Martin, moin moin.
Right.
There it is. Got it in there. All right.
All right. So, I mean, but again, it's their genius at making the company known becomes top of mind. People invest and investigate and then invest in the products and services, which obviously is meeting some kind of need for whatever companies are doing it, whatever companies are, considering it. But their geniuses at just making sure people know them in the world. And that is, he's Northern German. So
Man, we got Paris in the house too.
Olivier Descoubert. Olivier Descoubert. That's my 3 years of high school French coming.
You got it right. I think that's right.
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure I'm right on that one. Olivier Descoubert. Welcome.
Bonjour. We got Europe.
Bonjour. Actually, for you, bonsoir. So anyway, with Salesforce, look, let me say this. I know people would love to look at things from the purity of why they're growing is always because everyone loves their products and services. I mean, that's just a pure view, but it's not the true view. Ultimately, it's that people are more aware of that company than other companies who might do exactly the same thing in let's say, in an overall sense, in a similar way, but at the same time, don't have the reach, don't have the visibility, don't have the top of mind kind of stamp in the brain that a lot of other companies, they just don't have that. Salesforce never is out of the public eye.
Hey, Sri.
Hi, Sri Sabasan.
You are really, I have to tell you, you're very bold to try to pronounce these names because I just let you do it and hope for the best. And I think you're doing a good job, by the way. So,
look at that one.
All the former colleagues here to meet our former. Look at that,
Bob.
So in other words,
Bob's fan club.
So basically, Martin, you're just basically telling us you really don't care about us. We just
right. We're basically the vessel. That's it.
Yeah,
you guys are the can, man. We're waiting for the drink to be poured. You guys are merely the can, right? Yeah. So with Salesforce, it's just they know how to be visible. They know how to get mind share. They know how to do all those other things you have to do to be fully successful. The great products, the great service alone don't make you that. And right. Salesforce is probably the most overt living proof of that, not just in the tech industry, in any industry, period.
All right. So that's the breakdown of the revenue. As they're even things like Sales Cloud are growing as old as it is, it's growing at a pretty significant rate still. You got to give them credit for that. And of course, the big driver growth is the platform. Anyway, I thought those numbers were pretty interesting. Now, I actually kind of did a glance at the transcript, and two things stood out to me. I shared this with you last night. Oh, this is not the one I wanted to start.
No, but
I wanted to save that.
I know. You blew that one.
I know. Oh, wait a minute. Nobody was paying attention. So anyway,
no, wait. Here we do it. Never mind.
Never
mind.
Pay no attention to that thing that was staring you right in your face.
Right.
All right. So
you had time to read.
This is the first one that I thought it's kind of mind blowing and to me a little scary.
Yeah.
Is the number of people that Mark Benioff said that they are expecting at this year's Dreamforce. 150,000 people to be here and registered to attend. That's not too far off from the all-time high.
Yeah, it's a little bit frightening to me though, given we still are not over the pandemic yet.
Yeah.
I mean, we were given to, I wouldn't have suspected anywhere close to that. No, nor if I was running the show would I have done anywhere close to that. I would have kept it smaller deliberately.
Right. But now the other piece of that, and Esteban is still an analyst at heart.
Oh, of course.
Yeah, that's of course the case. But the other part that I highlighted, and will also be streaming the entire 3 days on Salesforce Plus and expect millions more to tune in. Bam. That's
Well,
big. You know why
yeah.
that's big? Well, we don't necessarily know, but we will find out because how do you like that segue? How did you like that? How did
Whoa.
you like that?
Awesome. I
Because
think Benioff sent you that just for this.
because the man that has been the driving force for Salesforce Plus. I mean, it's just barely a year old. And we literally 2 days after the announced Salesforce Plus, we had Colin Fleming on, who at the time was just an SVP of sorts and heading up Salesforce Plus. Now they just crossed the year. And as you saw what Mark Benioff said, Salesforce Plus is going to play a pretty substantial place in Dreamforce this year. And so the week before Dreamforce, Colin Fleming, the EVP of Global Brand Events, and he's got a really long title, but he's the guy that is the driving force behind Salesforce Plus. He's going to join us right before Dreamforce to talk about the year that Salesforce Plus had, but also the role that Salesforce Plus will be playing in this year's Dreamforce. I can't wait for that.
Yeah, me either. I mean, he's actually might as well just have his title be EVP of really cool stuff.
That would be a nice title. All right.
He's doing all the really cool stuff that Salesforce is doing.
That would try to compete with Ray Gerber's title. That's cool. All right. So real quick, before we bring our guy out, I had this is the other thing that I thought was really interesting. It's kind of the interesting compliment.
Yeah, no, that's
humble brag.
This is known as literally the most backhanded compliment I've ever seen in my life. That's ridiculous. I love them, and I'm so happy we're better than them.
So I'll just read it in my best Mark Benioff. I really don't have a best Mark Benioff, but I'll just read it anyway. I'm a big fan of SAP, and I have a lot of respect for their business and what they've done in the market over the last 40, almost 50 years. Well, we know.
Meaning, even that one is like,
I know.
Meaning they're really old.
So in other words, what they've done in 50 years, we are only in our 23rd year. And to see our business in July do more than they reported in June in terms of revenue, that was very meaningful to me. That's some skill right there. He did a lot. He covered a lot of.
That picture is kind of perfect, given the face he's got on that picture. Yeah, that was whack. Oh, yeah. I'm so sorry, I hit you.
Is that considered a humble brag, or is that just not?
No,
even
that's
humble?
Literally just the classic, incredibly backhanded compliment.
And I wish we could show the green room right now. There's some facial stuff going on there that, yeah. Anyway, that stood out. That was one of the things that just jumped out at me as I was perusing the transcript.
That is so ridiculous.
That's like a lap, a victory lap, kind of.
Well, that's all these people. You know what? It kind of goes with like when you get to be my age, right? When people say, "You look great for your age." Right. If you were younger, of course, you wouldn't look so good, but but you look great for your age. I mean, it's the same. It's literally about the same level, which is the most. It's a massive insult.
Quite a
right.
Poison to praise.
Poison
That's
praise.
way of putting it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Very interesting. We got a comment from Esteban. I'm trying to see if I should put. All right. Let's get ready for our guest.
No, you gotta do Ray. You gotta do Ray's comment. Just his very last comment.
My wife can use comment. Extinguished scientist.
Scientist instead of distinguished.
That's not good. That's not a good one. All right. Okay. So our next non-guest, he's always a straight shooter. He always tells it like it is. And in order for us to kind of get into the right mood, the right spirit to embrace and welcome our non-guest, I saw this interview from Rick Barry. Rick, one of the greatest of all time. He is also one to never mince words. So he was at some kind of a local NBA kind of thing, and somebody got a chance to ask him some questions about today's basketball and the era he was in. And I thought this might help us bring on our guest. So I'm going to play this clip, and enough build up. Here we go.
The game is simple. You call me a purist, old school. No, this is the way the game was designed to be played. And it doesn't matter whether you're shooting threes or not. I mean, you adjust your defense, you adjust accordingly. You don't go under screens, you jump screens, you just take away the three-point shot for a lot of people. I mean, you just play smart defense and make the other team have to earn what they're getting, and don't make it easy for them. Make sure they're always getting challenged. You don't give them easy pass to the basket. You watch some of these games, the guy's 20 feet from the basket, he winds up driving in for a dunk. What are you kidding me? Where the hell is the defense? I mean, that's a total breakdown in defense. So, I mean, it's not a complicated game, and yet they do make it complicated. So, I just have a hard time. You get so caught up on athleticism. You take the athlete, give me the guy who knows how to play. Get the officials to call it by the rule book. Okay. Stop the traveling, stop the carrying the ball, stop the moving screens. Call the damn game according to the rule book, because the players will adjust. If you're going to allow them to get away with it, hell, of course I'll keep doing it. Call the game according to the rule book. It's such an advantage to let a guy carry the basketball or take an extra step. That's ridiculous. Or a guy to move on offense. I mean, what are you giving all this advantage to guys for? They're breaking the rules. Call the game according to the rule book. I charted the game a few years ago, Chicago, Atlanta. 59 moving screens weren't called. 59. That's insane. It's pathetic. For me to watch this game the way I was taught how to play the game and to watch this and what they allow to let go, it's an embarrassment. Well, first of all, what are you comparing 20 years ago to today? I mean, it's a different game. I mean, just compare the guys today and what they're doing to the guys that are playing today. Don't compare them before. People say, oh, Rick, you guys couldn't play today. I said, you're out of your mind. I said, you must be on drugs. I said, you know how much better I would be if I was playing today? Seriously. I had no weightlifting. We had no strength coach, no agility coach. We had no dietitian. We did everything. We did nothing to help us. I'd be faster, stronger, quicker, more endurance, jump higher. I'd be so much better a basketball player today than I was back when I played, because of the training and the sophistication of what goes on in every sport. So to make that statement is insane. Okay, all of us would be way better. Plus the fact we know how to play.
Right. It's nice to see that Rick is mellowed in his older age.
Yeah.
And, taking things easy, smooth.
Less fiery, less
confrontational, just having a nice time. And with that as a setup, I turn things over to the venerable Paul Greenberg.
You know what? There's only one way to introduce our guest, Bob. Well, he's really he's a player in residence, so he's more than a guest. He's a personal friend of me and you at many ways. He's a icon in the industry. I'm just gonna say, look, we should bring on Bob Stutz, who's the Rick Barry of CRM.
That's a good one. I like that.
How you doing, man?
Good.
You got a giant fan club here.
Yeah, I know.
All over the world too. It's like
I was starting to get nauseated back there listening to all your love for Salesforce. What the hell's wrong with you guys?
Love.
What did you like? What did you think about that Mark Benioff compliment?
Look, it's typical, right? What he's saying is it's a shitty company and they need to get out of the business because they're never going to be in the business. That's basically what he's saying at the end of the day. Look, he's always said that about SAP, right?
No, but he respects them. You can tell.
No, but he's not like Larry Ellison, so he doesn't come out and say, nasty comments, right? He has to, it's sort of like that passive aggressive nature, right? Yeah. You're sort of trying to compliment, but at the same time, you're saying, you look pretty, but you're really ugly, and
there's a song that I use as the outro from my podcast. And there's a line in it. I didn't know I was pretty till I took a look at you.
That's a great line.
No, but I mean, look, everybody gives Salesforce credit, but Jesus Christ, look at their numbers. I mean, come on. Look, 15% growth Sales Cloud, right? That's nothing to write home to mom about at the end of the day. Service Cloud, 14% year-over-year growth. That's nothing to write home about at the end of the day. The combination of Marketing and Commerce Cloud, probably the two hottest things in the industry right now. Combined growth year-over-year, 17%. Not something to write home about, right? I mean, where they had their growth was on the platform, right? With Slack, right? That's where the growth is coming. It's not coming from their applications, right? And I think, look, the problem is there's nobody to challenge them anymore. Everybody's gone.
Wow.
Right? Everybody's sort of conceded, actually, to be quite honest. And that's a very unfortunate thing at the end of the day, because you can dictate a market by good marketing, which they're the best at the end of the day, right? I mean, Mark, even on the earnings call, even says they're a marketing machine. That's what they are at the end of the day.
Oh, right? Yeah, they're geniuses.
And to be honest, who if you were a CEO or a CIO, COO, and you were looking at buying a CRM platform, I mean, let's be honest. Who else would you even think about at the end of the day?
Well, that's how good marketing they are.
And it's true, because you can't go wrong at the end of the day, right? If you go out and you buy Salesforce and it's a piece of crap, it doesn't work, right? All you can say is, well, hey, look, everybody else in the industry uses it, so it must be good at the end of the day, right? So, I mean, look, and then Paul, your friend, my friend, he moved to the dark side. That really was just, I'm sorry, but look, they have this thing they do. They take all the good analysts out of play. So there's nobody to challenge them anymore. Who's challenging them? Look, you can go down the list of people.
Wow, I just realized what a giant insult that was.
To
me and Brent.
Let them keep going.
Insult to me and Brent.
But I mean, look, you guys are nice, right? You write things that are like, don't get me wrong, but look at some of the people who, look at Rob DeSisto. Rob DeSisto was a nasty analyst when he when he worked for Gartner and did sales. I mean, look, he I gotta say, but those guys, him and our other friends who all jumped ship and went over there, right? I mean, look, they were the only ones challenging them in the industry. And now what's happened? They're gone. They're all gone. So if you look at Forrester, if you look at Gartner, right? Who's left over there to even challenge them at the end?
Oh, there's good analysts at the.
There's good analysts, but they don't have the clout to challenge a Salesforce at the end.
I don't actually know too many of these. It's funny you said that. I actually realized I know some of the Gartner analysts who remain.
But what does that say that you don't even know who they are anymore?
The Forrester ones I know. I just don't know the Gartner ones as well.
Yeah, but I think that it does feel like we're not too far from all the generation of folks that we know, including ourselves, are looking for the exit. You don't see a lot of folks coming up behind us, right?
No, and that's the thing, right? If you think about it, who's coming up behind, right? Where's that next generation of analysts coming from at the end of the day, right? There's nobody left out there. It's
Let me ask you: do you think it feels like because of the rise of social and all this stuff, and everybody's talking about creator economy and branding, it feels like that generation may be more interested in being a brand and an influencer more than being a traditional analyst kind of person?
Yes, I think that's true to some extent, right? But even there, you know, a lot of those guys that are even on the social side, right, who are trying to make a name for themselves, you know, use excluded, are you know, look, they still need sponsors at the end of the day, right? They still want to get invited to events at the end of the day.
That's true.
Right? I mean, so, you know, the difference when you work for a Forrester or a Gartner, you have a little more protection there. But when you're an independent analyst and you depend on, you know, look, if they don't like what you're saying about them, guess what? You're not coming to their next event, right? You guys have seen that happen, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, but but the attitude you have to have for those things are, so what, right? I mean, you say what you have to say.
But how many people?
Right.
And that's why I say, but you know, the next generation of analysts coming up, I don't think they quite have that. Look, they don't have the clout of a Paul Greenberg, for instance. They haven't written a book on CRM, right? You don't see a lot of that people nowadays writing, you know, what I would call, you know, books about the business and the industry. And, you know, I think, you know, that's part of the problem, right? You don't see that anymore. I mean, just think 5 years ago, even 10 years, how many books were written, right, on CRM and CX, right? Tons of them.
On
right?
CX especially.
Especially CX, right?
Yeah.
And nowadays you don't see a whole lot of that anymore, right?
Well, they've moved off to different formats.
No, because everything's a touchy-feely book nowadays, you know, right? It's all
sound
about
like Rick Barry.
I think
it's true though. I mean, look, you know, and it's not bad, by the way. You know,
it's just what it is.
Look,
you know, I you know, it's funny. I mean, it's funny you're talking about young analysts, you know, coming up, because to me, the last genuinely young analyst that I know, I mean, there are others, I'm sure, but the last one I know who was actually really very good at it and also gained some clout was John Bruno, who of course went over to the other side too. He went on to work at Pros, but he was good, and he was really insightful young guy, and he gained a lot of credence quickly. And you know, he was working at Forrester, of course, but I can't think of anybody past him that I would call an analyst. There are influencers, but they're, you know, even there, it's like,
yeah, but you just don't see the, you know, look, you know, the one guy that always comes to mind is our other close friend, Michael Mose. Right?
Yeah,
man, look, when Michael worked for Gartner, I mean, I can remember all the run-ins I had with Michael while he was at Gartner, right? I mean, you know, starting from the Siebel days, going until he, you know, he left. But you know, look, the guy used to write stuff that was highly critical of companies.
Yeah.
I mean, and he was right on, right? He was a no-nonsense guy who really, but see, there's nobody like that anymore. You know, I haven't seen a negative analyst report on any of the vendors in a long time, actually, to be quite honest. Even when you read the Magic Quadrant stuff, right? And you read the comments and, you know, and it's like nicey nice, right? It's like this new generation of everybody gets a medal and wins at the end of the day. There's no winners and losers. Bullshit. There's winners and losers in this business. And the winner is Salesforce and everybody else is a loser. It's as simple as that. I mean, look, just look at the revenue, right? You can't argue with the revenue at the end of the day, right? The growth numbers aren't there, but look, the revenue is. And you know, Mark, look, he's been spot on about this, right? You know, you look at that and you just think 30 billion plus they're heading for, right? You know, I mean, it's unbelievable at the end of the day. Who would have ever guessed that this business would have been that big? Right.
I literally remember using them in 1999 in my little small business, and I hated it. Absolutely hated it. I literally dumped it and used SalesNet for a while instead.
Well, and I think today, you know, look, I think there's a lot of people, a lot of customers who you know, who look, they use Salesforce. I don't think they like it. And I mean, I've had a lot of comments from customers who over the years who like it, but you know, they like the aura of Salesforce, but is it better than anything else out there? Well, it works. It's okay.
It's, again, there's a lot of, let's call it great technology out there. There really is, like tons of it. But that doesn't mean you're going to be a successful company, right? It's just, you can be buried among all the other
I think
great
the one thing
technology
that Mark Benioff has shown this industry is that it's just not about building good products at the end of the day. It's really about the hype, the marketing, the culture, look, the culture sells software, right? I mean, their culture sells software at the end of the day. I mean, just go to Dreamforce, right? It's like going to a cult gathering at the end of the day. And look, I was part of that. I still love it. I think it's a great culture. It's fun. But the reality is we have a runaway business. And Salesforce is the SAP, whether Mark wants to admit this or not, they're becoming the SAP of CRM.
So who is the Salesforce to Salesforce becoming the SAP of CRM?
Because they're gaining market share. They're moving so far ahead in market share that no one will ever catch them.
Wow.
And that's what happened with SAP and ERP. Look, they own 70% market share, right? And Salesforce is moving towards that goal, right? Pretty soon, who is there going to be to challenge them? Look, there's good products out there. Look, Microsoft has good product.
Yeah.
But for them, it's a side business at the end of the day. It's a rounding error.
This big.
It's a rounding error, right? And you can look at all the other vendors. Look, they just don't have they don't put the effort in and the marketing dollars to promote their products, to sell their products, right? They just don't do it at the end of the day. And that's the problem.
What do you make of Oracle is seemingly, cutting back on CX?
It's a shame, in a lot of ways, because look, Oracle has they made a lot of good acquisitions over the years.
They sure did.
Right. And everything from marketing to, you can go down the list, right? They made a lot of good acquisitions. The problem Oracle has always had is attracting the right leadership to come and put the pieces together. That has always been the problem, because people don't want to work for Oracle at the end of the day. And unfortunately, CRM at Oracle is like CRM at Microsoft. It's not a priority, right? It's not important in the grand scheme of things. It's a rounding error again. And so as long as you have companies who don't put the priority behind it, you're never going to compete. It's just not possible. And so
like this is
Salesforce will become the SAP of the CRM industry. They will look, they're already, market share numbers are always, I don't believe any of the market share numbers that anyways, you look at IDC and all these other ones. I don't believe any of those numbers at the end of the day. But if you do look at usage and you look at things like that, look, it's clear Salesforce is running away with this at the end of the day. And there's no one to challenge them. No one.
Is it pretty much
a boring industry?
It's going to become a very boring industry, just like the ERP industry is a very boring industry at the end of the day.
I'm getting out at the right time.
Well, is there any company who is not, coming out of their foundation being CRM or CX or customer? Is there anyone that could do that jump? Because I think, it's
here's
hard.
what it's going to take to do that jump.
Yeah.
One, you have to build products that are very different, that are not not the same traditional type. You don't want to, you can't go head to head with Salesforce at the end of the day, right? You have to build something that's very different. You have to build something that is new, modern. You need a new pricing monetary model, right? You need a monetary model that's very different, because if you're going to try to compete and take business away from Salesforce, then you need to go to a consumption-based model, right? Pay for what you use. No subscription model. Get rid of the subscription model, right? You pay for what you use at the end of the day, right? That's the only way you're going to be able to make such a massive jump quickly, right? Because otherwise, I mean, look, we got rid of on-prem software, right? And everybody said, oh, on-prem software, let's get rid of it. Go to the cloud. Why? Because you don't pay maintenance in the cloud. Bullshit. You pay more maintenance in the cloud than you paid with on-prem software at the end of the day. And all you have to do is look at every one of the cloud vendors and look at all those nice programs they have around support and service. It ain't free at the end of the day.
So wait a minute. So with a consumption-based model, what does that do? It doesn't eliminate maintenance. I mean, it just...
No, but if you build the right products in a way, you don't need maintenance.
What way would that be?
You have to build them the right way, which is not so buggy at the end of the day.
Well, yeah. But that's
it means
isn't that Holy Grail though?
Way. It means you have to really put an emphasis on quality. You have to put an emphasis on platform, actually, to be quite honest, right? Yeah. It's all about the data. If there's one thing that Siebel had right, which if you look at C3 AI nowadays, it's the same model. It's all about the data, right? Ain't about the UX, it's all about the data at the end of the day. And if you build with that in mind, look, Salesforce wasn't built from the data up. It was built from the UX down.
Right.
If you really want to build different products, you have to build from the data up. You really have to get the data right? CRM systems are dumb, right? Look, sorry, but they are.
Of course.
And there's no denying that. And it's and especially some of them that were designed from the UX down, right? Because the data was an afterthought. Oh yeah, let's add this data. Right. It wasn't thought through at the end of the day. Now, if you take the concept of CDPs and you say, it's really not about CDP, it's about what CDP will evolve into eventually, which is an intelligent data hub, right?
Right.
Now, if you think about having an intelligent data hub where all those signals are being fed into, right? And it's not persistent, right? It's transitory data coming and going, right? But your ability to build on-the-fly applications for that, right, that are meaningful at that moment, that's the critical piece. That's what it's going to take in order to shift this industry away from subscription model, away from, and it's going to be about platform, right? But you have to have that, you really have to have that intelligent data platform first before anything else.
So
right?
What, if you have that, what would these applications do?
Well, first of all, they'd be very, very analytical in nature, right? And they'd be totally based on machine. So all data in, all data out goes through the machine. So they learn. And pretty soon you get to a point where, and if you ever hear, Elon Musk talk about this stuff, right? It's really about about the fact that as the machines get better and better, their ability to generate code for applications will become better and better. Right. And, if you think about the ability to, based on what I'm doing, having an application appear, right, as I need it, as it's there, and not some, application that sits on my phone, sits on my laptop or my desktop that, God, I have to have a freaking update every so often to make it work because everything shifted. And now I have to wait because I can't even do my business right unless I make a bunch of changes, right? And I think we have to get to the point where automation really does start to take over this industry at the end of the day. And look, the technology's there. It's just, look, but the ability to do that and the amount of time it takes is huge, right? I mean, and you do have to shift this pricing model, right? Look, we got rid of perpetual licenses because we said perpetual licenses were costing companies way too much money. But my God, look at some of these contracts that companies sign with Salesforce, right? I mean, they're paying 100 times more in the cloud than they would have paid if they had on-prem software and had paid perpetual licenses at the end of the day.
You know what? That's been the case with everything from this. Like, even if you're an individual consumer and you're using something like Microsoft Office, think about it.
That's right.
It seems great, but you're paying $100 a year for something that would have cost you $400 completely before that, right? So after 4 years,
and you got
already
you got all the free updates,
right? But you're still paying $100 a year, and if you use it more than the 4 years you would have paid it with a perpetual license, you're already overpaying. So
and with Office, if you call support, you're still paying for freaking support if you call them.
Well, that's why I never call support.
So, I mean, that's I think, that's the crux of the problem with the industry, right? Is that the industry is slowly but surely disintegrating, and I hate to say it, but I look at the players, right? I look at a Sugar, I look at others, some I can't mention, but I look at them and I say, look, I think some of these companies had an opportunity. I think they just didn't move fast enough. They didn't do the right things. They tried to play tit for tat with Salesforce, and you can't win that game at the end of the day.
Well, to your point, actually, go back a little bit on, let's call it the AI and automation and the data being used for for actually ultimately to drive how work's done. Microsoft Viva Sales, the thing that makes it most interesting, and they're doing a very small part of what you're talking about. It's like if you're doing it in the first blush, you do this, which was it automates a lot of the data entry that most of the salespeople ordinarily would have had to do. You don't have to do it anymore. It takes care of it for you. Now that again is obviously a very convenient and efficient capability. But it also actually, if you think about it, it's kind of a primitive version of what you're talking about at the same time. But it begins to, again, it's not, you're talking about it on a scale that's well beyond that, but ultimately things that you had to do a million updates for, you had to go out and find the information about, you had to, let's say you had to do tons of manual, both output and input, both. You don't have to do that anymore, right? And so again, it's a task-oriented one in this specific case, which is the data that you historically have been entering manually into your CRM system is now automated for you, and that helps the salespeople and others. Yeah, but it also goes to the beginning of what you're talking about.
Right, because you have to have stuff that's automated, right? Look, if somebody has to type it into a system, it ain't happening at the end of the day.
Mm-hmm.
And that's true. That was true 30 years ago. It's true today. It has not changed. If you expect salespeople to put all that stuff into a system, it's not happening.
Yeah, and that's from day one of CRM on. That's been the problem.
It's always been the problem, right? And that's why in CRM systems you have so much static data at the end of the day.
Yeah.
And it's unfortunate, right? Because that's why things like forecasting have never been accurate, right? I don't care what anybody says. There's just no way to get to accurate forecasting the way the systems are set up today. It's just not possible.
Look, that's, what, just the whole concept of forecasting to me is almost ridiculous. I think of it every year. I always, even though I am a fan of a lot of what Gartner does, but I'll see on the analyst side, I'll see this. CRM is projected in 2025 to reach 62.45 billion.
Yeah.
How the hell do they even get to 45 in that? I mean, that's a ridiculous thought. That, you know, it's just, I don't know where they come up with this stuff, but you know, you tell me, look, CRM's projected to grow. I can buy into that potentially. I mean, if it is, but you know, but I'm not going to buy into 62.45 because you have no way of knowing or forecasting
and that's part
that
of the
number.
problem, right? The numbers that they come up with sometimes just are not realistic at the end of the day, right? You know, and so, you know, look, but it's sad to see the industry sort of become a one-player industry at the end of the day. You know, that's the sad thing, right? Because
Well, you know, it's also evolving to a different thing. CRM has been
it is, but you know,
and
you don't get to better products and better feature functions without having good competition at the end of the day.
I agree.
Right.
But you know, if you think about it, I can speak. I know Brent, me, you actually too. We moved beyond CRM per se
Oh yeah.
a long time ago, because CRM became what it is, right? And it's not what we wanted it to be, but it became what it is. And what it is technology in a system that does certain customer facing things, and people use it for operational value, and that's what they use it for. But it's not what we looked at. We weren't, you know, we were looking at innovation and strategy, and you know, the market.
So, you know, one of the things that I've been doing in my, besides doing a lot of traveling, is you know, is really looking at customer service, right? And really doing a lot of research around customer service, and you know, looking at things like, you know, and it's really dawned on me that there's a true inequity in the whole model, right? Which is customer service reps earn on average, depending on state, country, where you're in, right? Country can make a huge difference, right? Because you can go somewhere like the Philippines where it's like $5 an hour, right? In the US, the average is 13 to 17 an hour for a customer service rep, right? But if you really think about that, customer service companies pay a fortune to buy software, right?
Yeah.
But they pay their people shit. And what they still have not learned, and this really has struck me when, you know, like interactions I have, like with the bank or a teller, or you know, having to deal with AT&T or Vodafone or any of these companies, right? You know, they don't pay the people.
I know.
They don't value the people who are taking our calls at the end of the day. But just think, they always complain about churn. But why is that churn still there? Well, because people are still frustrated with those interactions that happen.
Same exact ones they were frustrated with 15 years ago.
15 years ago. It has not changed. Look, the software's gotten much better.
Yes.
Right? But the problem is they've not solved the real issue. And the real issue is pay customer service reps great money.
Mm-hmm.
And guess what? You change the whole factor there, right? Because if you pay people well and treat them well, you know, companies should like treat their customer service people like gold, because those good customer service people, I have come to the conclusion that even if you buy a shitty product from a company and you call up to complain about it, that moment of interaction, that person on the other end of the phone, how they react, how they talk to you, how they diffuse the situation, even though you know it's a shitty product, you may actually stay and buy it again because, you know, the person on the other end of the phone handled it the right way.
This is so good.
Oh, yeah.
And also, the flip side of that, you have a company like Apple who creates fabulous products. People
Shitty
love
customer service.
Exactly.
No,
Right.
they don't create fabulous products. I look. I had the most frustrating, fucked up day today.
There it is.
I got my Mac Studio today.
Wow.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
You went big.
Oh my God. Setting this thing up, it was not a piece of cake. It took me 6 freaking hours
To set up a Mac Studio?
to set up the Macs. First of all, I couldn't get the freaking migration assistant to work. And then Apple says, right? They even say, right? You go on and you say, well, migration assistant doesn't always work very well. Right? Well, why do you put it on the goddamn thing if it doesn't work well? Right? And then they say, oh, use Ethernet. But what they don't tell you is in order to use Ethernet, you have to make sure the settings are set like perfectly in order for the Ethernet to actually take effect. And I'm telling you, I was really getting frustrated. I had to like shut my office door. So, shut the windows in the house so the neighbors didn't.
No, so your 3-year-old didn't hear you.
Right?
Your 3-year-old didn't hear you. That's why you were
Yeah.
shutting the door.
But the most frustrating thing may be, will it stop you from buying the products in the future?
No, because the problem is, and this is to your point, Brent, which is, look, there's no other product like these in the industry. Right. And as much as I dislike Apple service, because they don't care about you as a consumer at the end.
Exactly right.
They could give a shit less who you are. They don't care anything about you because at the end of the day, they know you're going to buy their product regardless.
Exactly.
Because
they will come.
What's the competition out there? Look, I don't particularly love my iPhone, but I'm so tied to the convenience of going from iPhone to iPad to Mac Studio to my Mac server, right? It's like
Hey, Brian.
you're totally stuck at the end of the day. There's nothing you can do, right? And I've looked at it, right? I'm a huge Windows fan, but man, I look at switching back to Windows and I go, and by the way, I have 4 terabytes in iTunes, right?
4 terabytes? What are you
because
watching?
I buy all those
history of
movies on iTunes.
You're buying the
right?
movie, the history of the world,
movies
part 1
and
through
music, and
infinity.
I mean,
my
look,
God. 4 terabytes.
I have such a huge digital library, right? And the problem is you're screwed if you try to go somewhere else because Apple's made it impossible for you to move that music anywhere else.
No
right?
fool's day.
You don't really own it at the end of the day.
No,
You
you rent it. You rent
That's
it.
it. You're renting it because you don't, even though you paid for it and they say you own it, you don't really own it at the end of the day.
No.
If you can't access it easily from wherever, from whatever thing you have, it's no good to you. So let me ask this one last question here. Is Salesforce closer to becoming the Apple of the industry than the SAP of the industry?
Yes, in a lot of ways.
Okay.
Right. I mean, look, service is still a problem with Salesforce even today, right? I mean, look, software service in general has always been an issue, right? I don't know any company that really has done software service very well, right? A lot of them try hard, right? I have to say a lot of them try hard, but ultimately what happens if you want good service, you have to buy a special program. It's as simple as that, right? You have to pay to upgrade your service, right? And I think that this has always been a huge issue. And I think, it's the same with Apple too, right? If you can buy, like if you're a business and you have a lot of Apples, you can buy Premier Service, which, then they drop everything to help you, right? But if you're just a lowly little consumer, forget it. You're out of luck, right? I mean, I gave up. I never call Apple service ever. You know, I go out on the web and I look at the forums, right? You know, that's where you really learn how to, you know, it's just like with the Mac Studio, right? So here's the classic example, right? So what they don't tell you is that none of the Intel-based software works. So you have to actually download new software to actually run those things. Like my webcam, my Elgato webcam wouldn't work on the Studio. I had to actually download another piece of software to get it to work, you know? And you know, so it's great, you know, look, the M1 chip is much faster. There's no doubt about it. Right. But now you have a problem with software, right? And they don't care at the end of the day, right? They don't care about the software vendors. They don't, you know, and unfortunately, they're partners, right? They don't care about partners, right? They have such a huge market share, right? At the end of the day, you just dictate and take it or leave it, right? And you know, people who get really frustrated, yeah, they move to Samsung. They go to you know, and look, I tried it once. I actually bought a Flip. You know, I bought one of these foldable Samsungs. I really like it, actually. You know, it's like carrying a brick around in your pocket, but you know, it's actually nice to have that big screen, right? You know, I even looked at the Surface, you know, the small, the Surface Duo or whatever it's called,
Surface
right?
Duo,
You know, experimented with that, right? You know, but even that was not. It just doesn't have the same.
No, well, you're tied to ecosystems. That's it. You get tied into an ecosystem you can't get
That's
out
right.
of, really. And no other ecosystem except it works with it, right? And that's the other side with Apple. I mean, you know, one thing, if you're looking even in the enterprise software world, they've concluded a long time ago that, you know what, we're living with other systems and we'll make it so they can work together, because nobody necessarily is going to dump their $110 million investment to pick us up. So let's make it work with that. And they did do that. Apple does not do that. You know, you have to have software like, you know, Parallels or something like that to help you do anything with Windows whatsoever. I don't care what system I'm using. I mean, I have a gaming PC, I have a productivity PC, but all my tablets and phones are iPhones or iPads, and I have a MacBook Pro M1 Max for my laptop, which is also my traveling work machine. To me, whichever one I'm using, and it's interesting because I can do certain things with one and I can do other things with the other, but I don't even vaguely try to make them intermingle in any way whatsoever. Oh, thanks, Ari. If you want, just get a hold of us and we can continue to talk. You know, but that's Apple's, you know, evil genius.
Is that like a
I guess is the best way. No, that wasn't backhanded at all. This is I'm not complimenting Apple in the slightest.
No, I'm talking about the comment. Interesting views, Paul and Bob. I just thought about that. Hey.
No, I don't know. I think she was commenting on the last thing we were talking about.
After that Mark Benioff, that's got me thinking about
right now, everything's a backhanded compliment.
By the way, wow. Ari is doing some amazing stuff.
Who is she? I don't know.
I know her. I've had conversations with her. She's doing some pretty amazing stuff when you look at investing and startups and you know, pretty amazing. You guys should actually have a discussion with her sometime.
We will. Absolutely will. I mean, I know she was asking some questions along the way. Like she had a compensation question, I think, for you on compensating customer success teams and sales versus sales. Honestly, the only ones I know who actually do compensate well, but they're also an enterprise tech company, is ServiceNow. They compensate very well on those levels because that's also effectively their bread and butter business too. Right. So,
well, with ServiceNow, they do have such a much more hands-on.
Yeah.
Right. And it's sort of important because that's how, you almost have to be at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Right.
They're the standout in the area we're talking about that actually does do a lot right. I remember the way they've handled customer success has been kind of extraordinary. I remember before the current program, which is a bigger beast, they had people would rave, their customers would rave about their customer success program, 24/7 availability, free or paid. They jumped right in there. They were always there for you. I remember Celia Fleischacker, who's currently the CMO at Verint, and then prior to that was Pros, but prior to that, she was at Epicor, and Epicor was a big ServiceNow customer. And I asked her about I was investigating customer success programs, and I asked her about ServiceNow's program, and she said she was like over the moon on how great it was. And I really trust her because she would tell me if she didn't like it, I would know. And then I checked around, and it was universal. And the other thing they always did, which was they always documented everything they did, right? So not only did you have documentation of the actual customer service interactions, but the approach, the methodology, everything was documented and available to people to use. They were not hiding it and protecting it. They also have a much bigger program now called Impact. And what it does, it consolidates all the original customer success stuff, but also professional services, help desk, everything. And then there are, again, tiers, premium, free tiers, but the level of service has just expanded to a degree that's pretty
but you pay
staggering.
for it at the end of the
Well,
day, right?
You pay for the well, to their credit though, even the free parts of it, they do a really good job with it. But of course, you're going to pay for if you want the most, the best you can get, you're going to pay.
So Esteban, he has a really good comment about Ari. She has this. What she's doing is actually pretty unique in the investment world, Okay,
cool. All right. We got
we can get her on.
Yeah, well, we're gonna wrap things up, but I do want to ask a couple quick questions. So when it comes back to Salesforce ruling the industry, would it take something like a company like an Apple or an Amazon, companies that have ridiculous resources, ridiculous reach, to have serious impact and challenge as Salesforce? Or are they so far outside of enterprise software that you can't even see companies that big?
They tried. I mean, look, Amazon, I think a couple times hired some of the right people, just never executed on. Look, I think it comes down to when it's not your core business, how much effort are you really going to put into it at the end of the day?
Yeah.
Right. Look, you'd almost have to start a separate company. If you were an Amazon or a Google, right, you'd almost have to have a separate company that you could fund, right? And you'd have to put a shitload of money into it at the end of the day to fund what is needed, right? This is the problem, right? Big companies who try to go like Oracle, SAP, you can go down the list, Microsoft, right? The problem is it's not their core business at the end of the day. And so when the going gets tough, where are you going to put your resources? You're going to put them on your core business because that's what you have to do. You have to protect that revenue stream that comes from your core business. And so in order for somebody to really, look, you really have to put a lot of money in, right? I mean, this would take a lot of funding, because if you think about just changing the revenue model, right? Getting away from subscription, going to a pure consumption-based model, you've got to have a lot of cash to carry you through, right? Because the revenue is not going to flow in. You're not going to go sign some big subscription deal that's going to bring you, 15 million, 20 million overnight, right? It's not going to happen, right? So you're going to have a slow build. It's sort of the way, if you think back to the PeopleSoft days, and if my memory corrects me right, PeopleSoft used to have a model where they didn't recognize revenue until a customer was actually up and running live.
You're exactly right.
That was their model. And that's what made them so successful in the industry, because it built a level of trust with their customers, right? Because the customer knew they weren't getting paid until they were live, right? And I think, there's a lot to say for that at the end of the day, right? I mean, look, CRM implementations are not easy. They're still hard, right? I mean, look, you think back, I mean, I remember the first time I purchased a Salesforce subscription, God knows how many years ago that was, but look how easy it was, right? I mean, literally it was like an hour to be up and running, right? Now, if you're an enterprise company and you buy Salesforce in the cloud, it ain't taking no hour to get up and running. It ain't taking no week to get up and running. It's no different than doing a Siebel implementation 25 years ago, And so I think this is why, it's just, you have to say, like, look, the software has gotten more complex, right? It's gotten, look, in the cloud. And by the way, the minute you sign, you start paying, right? Even if it takes you 18 months to implement, you're paying that whole time, right? The minute that system's up, cha-ching, 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 whether you're using it or not, doesn't matter at the end of the day. You're paying, right? And I have to say, that model that PeopleSoft had years ago, that was a truly ingenious model they had.
They were brilliant.
I mean, it really helped them to grow back in those days, right? But nobody had the marketing like a Salesforce has. Nobody had that creativity like a Salesforce had, right? I mean, so yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah. Hey, this has been great. Well, like we knew it would be. Yeah. I'm actually glad that we played the Rick Barry ahead of, because I think that inspired you, man. That was great. So my last,
you got your new nickname.
This is
but I think he's actually right though. If you think about it, right, basketball. If you think about it, how much better of a player would Rick Barry have been today with a dietitian, a strength training coach, right? Think about all those guys, Bird, all of them, right? Think about how much better they would have been today, right? If they had all that, the science, right? All the exercise science that exists today, right? I mean,
Will Chamberlain would have had a 200-point game.
Seriously, right? I mean, those guys would have been totally different, right? Even if you look at the Shaquille O'Neals of the world, right? Even in that generation, if they had the stuff that's available today, right? These guys would have been unstoppable at the end of the day.
I think Rick Barry at 78, he could start using.
Still pretty good. Yeah, I gotta say, sure I hope when I'm 78, I'm like that. That's for sure.
All right, last question for me. This is the biggest question of the day. Will your Buffalo Bills? Will you meet my Rams finally this year? I think there's a good chance we can meet up here.
I don't think so. Buffalo had a very smart offseason. They made some very smart acquisitions over the offseason. Strengthened their defense even more by acquiring probably the #1 defensive player in the league. They strengthened their offensive line. They have, look, I like the Rams, but to be clear, I mean, look, I'm sorry, but like, how do you injure yourself when you have to, you're getting ready to start the season? That's when most players are so careful, right? But now they're riddled with injuries going into the start of the season. I mean, who's going to play quarterback at the end of the day?
Oh, Stafford is going to be all right. We're okay. I would welcome the challenge. Would love to see you guys be there. so we could settle it once and for all. But hey, this has been a great conversation.
Buffalo will run away with the AFC East this year.
I think so. I don't think you're going to get much.
I agree.
I think they'll win. They'll win the conference. They'll win. I think they'll definitely go to the Super Bowl this year. It's due. I'm wearing my Jim Kelly jersey because people can say what they want, but there aren't many quarterbacks like the Jim Kellys of the world.
I agree.
Right? Kelly's strong.
You look at. I mean, look. Okay, look. The Tampa Bay quarterback. What can you say about him, right? Why has he lasted this long? Because he runs when it's time to get hit. He don't know how to take a hit, right?
Yeah.
I cannot believe
he gets rid of that ball before anybody has a chance to hit him.
I love Jim Kelly, man. Even though
he is great.
I
love him.
How many quarterbacks did you ever see get out in front of a running back to block like a Jim Kelly did? Right?
Nah, he was great.
Nah,
I liked him when he was at the Houston Gamblers. That's how far back I go.
That goes back.
The University of Miami. He was like he was the first real Miami quarterback before Bernie Kosar and all those. He was always good. But look at this. We actually, Don Flukinger, we got a Commanders fan. What the hell is that? I mean, I didn't know they had Commanders fans.
I don't see how doesn't he live in Boston area?
Yeah, I'm okay.
What is he doing rooting for the Washington Commanders?
I don't know, but hey, at least it ain't the Patriots. So I'm not.
Yeah.
One last question for you, Bob. Are you missing the SAP family?
I don't miss this industry at all, actually, to be quite honest. I know if I'm really honest, I have to say, look, the first month or two was a little tough,
Well, that was
and I had to do some real soul searching, right? Because, but then, it's like, look, spending time with family, traveling, I have a collection of drones that is unbelievable, right? I've gotten back into photography, right? I've been, it's like, you just find other things to keep you interested, right? And not that I don't keep tabs on the industry, because I do, and I still am pretty active with a lot of different companies in different ways, right? But, it's nice not have, look, for the last 20 something years, I didn't have a decent night's sleep.
Wow.
My phone was on 24/7. I used to get calls in the middle of the night from CIOs when stuff goes down, right? It's painful at the end of the day, right?
Yeah.
And in the cloud, it was even worse. Because when it goes down in the cloud, and especially stuff that is, mission critical, right? It's a problem, right? And so, like it was painful. So now, I never slept more than 5 hours a night. Never. My typical was 4 to 5 hours a night, working 16 to 20 hours a day. Now I sleep 7 to 8 hours a night. I watch TV, which I never did for all those years. I never watched TV, right? I don't feel guilty about drinking a glass of wine in the evening, right?
You know what? You should have been an independent analyst, because even while we're working, we can still watch TV.
Well, hey, you got a lot of TV watching to catch up on, and you got a lot of stuff.
Thank God for Netflix. Except for all their woke programs, which are like,
Okay. So Mr. Greenberg, any last parting thoughts before we close this one out?
I'm just sitting here lamenting the fact that I have nothing to talk about when it comes to football.
Hey, the Giants might. Okay, yeah, we'll move on.
No, the Giants. We got the only thing I can say. The best thing the offseason gave us is half of the Bills coaching staff. Right, we got I think 3 coaches from the Bills coaching staff, and then I like the new guy, Brian Daboll. Yeah, he's actually. I love this guy. I'm already watching him interact and the way he handles himself, and everything about this guy is complete opposite of everything we've had. Coughlin was a different breed. He was my last really good coach guy I really liked, but everything we've had since has been a nightmare and a disaster. Patrick, whatever his name was, and Joe
Judge. You weren't a Joe Judge guy?
Oh my God, what a nightmare! That he's not even a human being.
What was the guy before him? He was the worst.
Patrick Schumer or something like that.
Not him. I remember him.
But even coaches, if you think back to like the days when, of real football, right? Those coaches like the Lou Sabans of the world and stuff, right? Those guys were brutal, right? I mean, they were, in basketball. I feel sorry for a basketball coach nowadays, right? You got a bunch of spoiled rich kids like Kevin Durant who like freaking wants to dictate, who he plays with, who coaches, who's
I know
the general manager, right? You just go like, what's happened to sports at the end of the day, right?
Kevin Durant hadn't even played a minute on the contract he just signed. And
isn't that something? Isn't that, you look at how many games he's actually played since he signed with them, and you go, Jesus Christ, keep yourself healthy, play a whole season, then you may have something to say, right?
Absolutely. I know. By the way, Brent, it was Shermer was the one before Judge, but the one you're thinking about was Ben McAdoo. And we had Spagnuolo for an interim.
He's brutal. He was brutal with us. Anyway, Sven is saying max 1 year, Bob, and then you're back in business. Do you care to answer that now, or?
Could be. I've been working on some things. I'm
Martin agrees. Martin agrees with Sven. So there you go. They're counting on you being back in a year.
Well, me being an older Jewish guy, meaning Jewish mother, I hope they're wrong. That's what I say.
I don't know. Once you start getting that 7 hours sleep, I don't know.
Yeah.
I got to tell you that 7 hour sleep is actually very good at the end of the day.
Mm-hmm.
There it is.
It actually is. It's quite a difference, and
all the difference in the world.
It does, and so I don't know. I take it a day at a time. We'll see what happens.
Yeah.
Right.
Well,
I'm in no hurry. I'm enjoying traveling. Was in Crete, leaving for Albania next week.
Amazing.
Nice.
That's nice.
And then every now and again you show up here with us. That's what more can you ask for, man? I mean, that's
right. This is just vacation. This is just this is another vacation. Show up on this.
There it is.
That's it.
Cool. All right.
Perfect, guys.
On behalf of Bob Stutz, I'm Brent Leary.
I'm Paul Greenberg.
We are the CRM Players, and once again, we can never say goodbye until we say hello to Minnie. All right. Bye, Minnie. We're out.
See ya, Minnie.